Hello YouTube, it's Nathan, and you're in for a treat today. It's going to be a bit of a long video, and I kind of apologize, but not really. I want to share with you the Chieftain that I made in 3.2. This character has been a blast. It's been great. It can do all the content in the game. It wears an Abyssus, and guess what? It's not even a big deal. The Chieftain's a super tank. It does incredible damage. And I'm going to show you a quick speed run of Shaper, just to let you in on what the character looks like and feels like. And after the Shaper speed run, we'll get into the meat potatoes here. I'll tell you guys how the character is, what it's about, what works, what doesn't work, how to build it for yourself. And here it is. Here's the loot I got from Uber Elder when I killed it just earlier today. It's wonderful, isn't it? Alright, well, without further ado, I'll let you guys watch the Shaper run. It was pretty quick, not the fastest, but I'll see you soon. now that you guys saw the run, you get a feel for how much damage the character actually has. So let's talk about what the character is and how you can build it. First of all, it's a Chieftain. I'm level 92, and here are my Ascendancy nodes. Nagama Youth, Flames Advance, Death's Fury, Forest Strength, Sun's Light. I'll talk more about these as they're needed, but first thing first, Flames Advance. This node gives you insane damage potential. 70% of physical is extra fire for 3 seconds. That's huge. When it procs, you're definitely going to feel it. It's a bit RNG as to if it's going to proc at the right moment during a fight, but trust me, it's great when it happens. 10% fire resistance penetration is beautiful as well, because the character also uses a Xoph's blood, meaning we have Avatar Fire for 100% physical to fire conversion. So being able to penetrate a boss's resistances is a huge damage buff. More on the Ascendancies real quick. The character is using an Oni-Goroshi, and to counteract that degeneration, the Ascendancy has a surplus of regen. Tons of life regen, and some fire leech just in case the regen isn't enough. So here we are stacking 5 endurance charges for a little bit of extra regen there. And if you've taken a hit from fire damage recently, you get 2% of life regen there. Plenty of regen from this Ascendancy makes balancing out the Oni-Goroshi side effect almost trivial. It's super easy. I'll cover the skill tree kind of last. I'm very interested in talking more about the items, because that's pretty much what defines the character. Like I said, it's an Oni-Goroshi character. If you're unfamiliar with this sword, when you ignite an enemy, you gain her embrace for 3 seconds. You can read it right here. For those of you who can't read, I'll say it out loud. When you're under the effect, you cannot be stunned. 123% of sword physical damage is gained as extra fire, which kind of reminds me of something. Flames Advance. You're unaffected by Burning Ground, immune to freeze, chill, and ignite. And finally, you have 20% increased attack, cast, and movement speed, making this character quite zippy in even the worst case scenario. Moving on from that, you know what, maybe not moving on. Let's talk about what's in the Oni-Goroshi. We'll do this slow, one at a time. Blade Flurry. That's the boss killing ability, straight up. And while I'm at it, let me tell you, this is the gear I used to kill Uber Elder, okay? You're going to see a whole bunch of stuff in my inventory, and I'm going to cover that in a little bit. But everything in my inventory is in there for a reason. Back to the Blade Flurry setup. I'm running Tonk Effect, always. I never swap that out for increased AoE. Chance to Ignite, LE damage with attacks, Melee Fizz, Fire Penetration, and again Blade Flurry. Okay, those links are pretty much set in stone. If you cannot afford a second Oni-Goroshi, you may need to swap out Conk Effect for increased AoE. But I decided to splurge and pick up a second Oni, as you probably noticed, or maybe didn't in the Shaper video. When I need to clear a map, or pretty much any ad or pack in general, I can swap to the Flicker Strike setup, and with Blood Rage, as long as I'm killing a handful of mobs at a time, I'll have enough frenzies to pretty much bypass the cooldown. It's actually quite nice. My Flicker Strike's not even level 20, but it doesn't matter. The ability just cleans up pretty much everything. And I've linked it with Melee Splash, LE damage with attacks, Multi-Strike, Ancestral Call, and damage on full life. So those are the 2 Onis. Like I said, if you can't afford a second one, maybe just swap out Conk Effect for increased AoE. But then again, if you can't afford a second one, you probably shouldn't be running this character, because some of the items are going to be quite expensive. So moving on, we'll just cover everything in no particular order. The Abyssus. Try to get the highest amount of melee crit multi you can on this thing. Anyways, the helmet pretty much speaks for itself. This is what you need to use if your character doesn't do enough damage. Also, it's what you could use if your character already does a lot of damage to kind of push you over the edge, to make it insane. And that's pretty much what my situation is. I decided to go with the Blood Rage enchant. Even though it might not be the best enchant, it was cheap and it's quite valuable. It makes it so Blood Rage grants me 32% attack speed, and you know what? It helps a lot with Blade Flurry. The more times you stack the 6 and then release, the better, because that's where most of your burst damage comes from. Inside the Abyssus, now remember, like I said, this is the gear I use to kill Uber Elder. This is not what I would use for almost any other content in the game. Blood Rage, Enduring Cry, Determination, Vitality. Now why am I running Determination and Vitality, you may ask? Well, I managed to snag this Watcher's Eye for about 35 chaos, which is an incredible deal for what it offered me at the time. My biggest issue on Uber Elder was that I don't have instant life leech. If you're playing an attack build without instant life leech on Uber Elder, oh boy, you better have your defenses figured out, because you're going to get whooped. And I was. So I figured it out. I needed to run 2 defensive auras and build around a certain flask. The Blood of the Karui. This flask, I'm not going to cover all the flasks now, but in particular this flask, at the time, during the fight, would recover 8.3 thousand health in 2.5 seconds. And at the end of the flask effect, it would refill my health completely. So I was trying to play around this, given the fact that my life leech was not fast enough and my regen just wasn't fast enough. The fight has too much burst damage, too much shit could go wrong. You need an you need a oops, I messed up button. That's the Blood of the Karui. It fixes all your problems. Alright, so that's why I'm running these 2 auras, again, to buff the physical damage reduction and increase life recovery rate of flasks to make up for my lack of instant life leech. If I was not fighting Uber Elder, I could very easily swap out Vitality and Determination for Herald of Ash and Anger. That's exactly what you saw in the Shaper video. The setups for this Uber Elder and Shaper are quite different. I maximize as much damage as I can on Shaper, whereas Uber Elder requires a bit more defense. Even with the Abyssus on. I killed Uber Elder with the Abyssus. Alright, so moving around again. Briefly covered the Xoph's Blood. This amulet does wonders for the character. It saves you 5 points on the skill tree. You no longer have to path up here for Avatar Fire. And think of it like this. Instead of pathing for Avatar Fire, you now have Druidic Rite, Finesse, and Heart of Oak. Alright, so that amulet comes in big, but that's not the only reason why. Like I said, we're doing 100% fire damage, so the penetration is huge. Huge for damage. You also get 10% increased max life, which scales the 500 flat life and flat life everywhere else. It's nice, it's real nice. It helps boost the character's defense by quite a bit. You can take huge hits, even through almost 80% physical damage reduction. You can take huge hits and be just fine. 10% increased strength is nothing to scoff at either, because Death's Fury also increases strength by 10%, allowing your character to have a humongous strength pool, granting you flat life and melee physical damage. So again, if you can get strength on your gear, gloves, belt, boots, you are in business. Alright? Xoph's Blood. Huge item. Kaom's Heart, not much to say about this. I'm running the Oni-Goroshi, which is a one-hander, but it's also a 6-link, so it allowed me to kind of drop the chest piece. Not only does the Kaom's have a huge amount of life, but it also scales fire damage a wee bit. It's not the biggest DPS increase, but, you know, it's icing on the cake. Definitely helps. So I chose the Kaom's Heart. If you can't afford it, don't run this character, because you're going to want that Kaom's. You're going to want that Kaom's big time. Rings, both of these are fairly similar. On my rings, I wanted high life, some physical damage, didn't have to be the best, intellect to sustain curses or conk effect or whatever else. You don't need as much intellect as I had, but I wanted to be safe. I wanted to be able to run a level 20 Enfeeble if I wanted to. I just want to plan ahead. Okay, so I wanted strength, phys damage, tier 1 life, accuracy on at least one of the rings, and some resistance. This ring was beautiful. I think I picked it up for 8 chaos in the early league. Absolutely amazing ring. It just so happened to have the open prefix for fire damage, which is pretty nice too. The other ring is very similar to the one I just showed you. It's got physical, tier 1 life, intellect, and resistances. It might be important to have an open suffix on your ring, and that's because if you decide to have the Wise Oak in your build, you will want to eventually balance them out. Your resistances, I mean. Which is completely achievable, as you can see I've done right here. 87, 87, 87, getting full value from the Wise Oak. So an open suffix helps with that. Also, you might need to define your Xoph's blood like 10 times, or trade it for somebody else who has the resistance you need. Just saying. It happened to me. Alright, so moving on to the gloves. It's very similar to the ring slot, actually, but on this piece of gear I decided to go for strength instead of intellect. Pretty easy choice. If it were me, I'd love to have spiked gloves for the melee damage implicit, but you know what? I got these early on. They had the stats I need. They're very hard to replace. Spiked gloves with these same stats would be very expensive. Just can't afford it. And all my resistances are balanced out. It's a pain in the butt to upgrade anything right now, because I would literally need the perfect amount of lightning res. So I'm not going to bother. These gloves are great. The belt, pretty easy belt to buy here. Just a huge amount of life, as much strength as you can get, and if you have an open prefix, you can just craft elemental damage with attacks, and you're good to go. Pretty simple belt. Obviously, you want the Stygian Vise, but we can't always get what we want, so we try sometimes. And we go for boots. Alright, funny story about the boots. I'm about 40 Uberlab runs dry on the penetration enchant. Couldn't get it. Tried very, very hard. That's 40 runs. More than 40 enchants, because I was getting twice blessed from the Dark Shrines almost every time. Anyways, less about my salt, more about the boots. I stopped on attack and cast speed because it feels good when you're mapping. It feels good on any boss fight that has ads. It's nice. So what you want here on the boots, similar to the belt, similar to the gloves, you're seeing a trend here. Strength, life, resistances. If you have an open prefix, you get elemental damage with attack crafted on it. Now keep in mind when you're buying all this gear that you might need to take into consideration resistances, like I said 1,000 times, for the Wise Oak. You want to be as efficient as you can with that. Okay, so that's the gear. I kind of forgot to go over the link, so I'll cover that real quick, because I know you guys are going to correct me. Fortify, Blood Magic, faster attacks, Whirling Blades. Pretty simple setup. Blood Magic makes it so you do not have to use your mana, so you'll never run out, which is nice because when you have this much attack speed, you will end up running out without Blood Magic. The boot setup, I am personally running Enfeeble, cast when damage taken, increased duration, Immortal Call. Now this is a setup I specifically changed for Uber Elder. You do not need a cast when damage taken setup if you're doing any other content in the game. It does help you, but you do not need it. I did everything else deathless, no problem. What did I change? If you're not running this cast when damage taken setup and all you want is more DPS, what you do is throw an Ancestral Protector, Blind, Main, faster attacks. You're good to go. Easy as that. Your Ancestral Protector will be blinding the enemy, providing you some type of defense through the enemy's inability to hit you or being less accurate. It will maim the target, increasing their physical damage taken, and it will do it fast. It also provides you with the necessary attack speed to launch 6 stacks of Blade Flurry at your enemy faster than ever. So there's that. That's the gear. Those are the links. I don't think I missed anything. Let's cover the flasks. Okay, so these are the exact flasks I used for Uber Elder, and I'm showing you this in case somebody out there is interested in building the tanky version of this character, which can do all content in the game without switching anything, okay? You don't need to switch anything off this setup if you don't want to, but you can. I do. That's what I did for Shaper. I oftentimes like to do things optimally and speedrun them, okay? So, these are the flasks. A Lion's Roar. It speaks for itself pretty much. It's going to be the second most damage you can get from any flask slot. The first being the Diamond Flask. I'm realizing now that I don't have quality on this, and that's a little bit embarrassing. But what's important here is that it's increased duration and Iron Skin. You're low on your flask slots, so you got to optimize it. You can't have Iron Skin on Lion's Roar, so here you go. You have it on your Diamond Flask. When you pop these two, you go up to 76% physical damage reduction. Beautiful stuff. Helps a lot for Uber Elder. Now, why am I running a Sapphire Flask? Well, this is one of those changes I made to see if it would work, and it sure did. During that fight, there is a lot of cold damage. As you know, Shaper does physical and cold damage. Uber Elder shoots out those icicles, like rapid fire, and guess what? It sucks. I get hit wicked hard. So if ever I was in a situation where I'm trapped in a corner, I pop that, and all of a sudden I become a pretty decent tank. I can have, you know, I could maybe eat a few more attacks, which pretty much gets me by. I briefly covered it. The Blood of the Karui, it was healing 8.3k life in 2.5 seconds, which is almost an instant heal. It's better than an instant heal because it heals more than the amount of life I have. I had 4 charges of that during a fight, which basically allowed me to mess up 4 times on any given attempt. I did die on the fight, but I don't mind. It was a learning experience, and I ended up getting it down, and it was all good. Alright, so that's the gear equipped. Those are the gems. Let's talk about the gear in my inventory. Okay, how do we make this character viable in every situation? Well, you can see it right here. If you want the most damage you can get, let's say you're doing speed runs for Shaper, here's what you do. You just swap out a couple flasks. Now you have the Lion's Roar, you have the Diamond Flask, you have the Wise Oak, and you now have Onslaught from the Silver Flask. So, being that the resistances are all balanced, I'm going to be taking reduced damage from all elemental types, and my fire damage is penetrating 15% of resistances. So the Flask comes in clutch. Silver Flask is pretty obvious there as well, increasing our attack speed, allowing us to drop 6 stacks of Blade Flurry on an enemy faster than ever before. So those are the flasks that we change. Let's say you are running Uber Lab, which, if you know me, that's one of the main things I like to do in the game. Well, here's what you do. It's real simple. You drop out that second Oni-Goroshi, and you do this. It might look like a lot, but I promise it's not. You throw on the Brightbeak Prismatic Eclipse. In the Brightbeak, you're going to want to have a 3-link Blade Flurry setup. I chose, it's honestly just level 1 and 2 because I pretty much just bought it like 10 minutes ago on stream. But let me tell you, a level 1 Blade Flurry actually still kills stuff with this gear. It's not mandatory, but what it does is it prevents you, well, not prevents you, but it allows you to stay with the Brightbeak Prismatic Eclipse combo. Now, here's the situation. Let me bring this up real quick before I cover the rest. You're running through lab, you run into a trap setup, and there's a couple mobs in your way. Last thing you want to do is kill something with your Oni-Goroshi and put that big old Degen on yourself right before you're about to walk through a fire trap, because all the character's regeneration that you have through the Ascendancy and the skill tree is going to be pretty much nullified by the Oni's effect. So that's why I chose to keep the Brightbeak Prismatic Eclipse on with just a 3-link setup. It makes it so much easier. You're always going to be tanky. You'd never have to deal with the Oni's Degen if you do not want to. So, the other 2 things I changed. The spiked gloves that are Insanity crafted, Insanity Essence craft. Now, what you'll notice here is that my resistances are a little bit screwed up. Okay, but it doesn't matter. I also slap on the Perseverance belt for free onslaught with Fortify. This makes Leap Slam incredibly fast. So you're going to want to link Leap Slam with Blood Magic, Fortify, faster attacks, and just watch this. You can pop Blood Rage, and then all of a sudden, your leaps per second is actually incredible. And that's without Onslaught. You're going to pretty much have that up all the time. So that's what you do. If you're in Uber Lab, you can also change out these flasks. You do not need them. Maybe you can run a second Blood of the Karui. You could also run the Basalt Flask if you're seriously worried. But on today's layout, I was wearing an Abyssus, and I face tanked an overhead 2-handed mace slam. It was no problem. Didn't even have Fortify up. Just keep that in mind. The character is wicked tanky. You do not need to drop the Abyssus, but here's where the Starkanja comes in. You can. You can drop the Abyssus for these Starkanjas. In fact, it's probably better if you do, not even because of the fact that the Abyssus increases your physical damage taken, but rather the Star Kanji gives you attack speed. And what's attack speed do? It increases how fast you can leap slam. So in terms of efficiency, the character's got much more damage than it actually needs. So you sacrifice some damage for more attack speed, more efficiency. That's what you could do. You don't need to though. So there's that. In the Star Kanjis, let's say you can't afford this Watcher's Eye Jewel. Okay, so you take that out. No big deal. You can socket Haste. Okay, Haste is really nice for Uberlap. You can socket Blood Rage. You can do Herald of Ash and Enduring Cry. Boom, there you go. Now you have a juiced up attack speed leap slam, and you're getting through the lab no problem at all. Character's wicked tanky, and it kills the boss literally instantly. One Blade Flurry stack of 6 annihilates Azaro. Alright, so that's pretty much everything the character's got to offer. If you look at my profile in the future, you're going to see I swap gear up all the time depending on the circumstance. It's just what I like to do. I like to try to be most efficient for all the content. Okay, that's the gear, the gems, all the swaps that you can do if you need to. Let's talk about the skill tree a little bit. How are we scaling the Oni-Goroshi, Nate? Tell me. Alright, well, here's how. First of all, we're taking a huge amount of life on the skill tree. A lot of life. The character's damage is already enormous. So you want to try to balance out the Abyssus side effects the best you can. It's got no life on it, and it increases your fizz damage taken. So check this out. You take life, Warrior's Blood gives you regen, balances out the Oni's Degen. Alright, versatility for attack speed, accuracy. That's why I have accuracy on the gloves and the ring here. A little bit of flat accuracy goes a long way with how much I scale it on the tree. I'm almost capped out. I have 94% hit chance, 95 is the cap. Okay, so we come through here. Born to Fight, Strong Arm for the one-handed weapon nodes. Barbarism for +1 max fire res, which is beautiful. And then come down here for Blade Master. You get flat accuracy again, which scales very well. Fizz damage with swords. I take Juggernaut and one node here since I am at that awkward level 92. I got nowhere else to put it. Disemboweling, I take this whole wheel. Also, I skip this, but endurance charges are pretty nice on this character. I run 5 of them right now. I could have run more, but I don't think they're like incredibly valuable. They're good to have, but they're not worth going too far out of your way for it. So I take the 2 endurance charges that are very easily available. Come to the Templar area through Devotion and take some LE damage with attacks. There's a lot of intellect up here as well as some all resistance, which helps you ultimately balance out the Wise Oak if you do choose to run that. More life, some melee damage, attack speed, strength int, beautiful stuff. Armor, life regen, strength int. Sanctity is a beautiful node to take, so I go for that area. After the Templar area, it's time to make the long trek to the right side of the tree. Snagging Eagle Eye along the way, a 2-point jewel socket, pathing through the Duelist area for Master of the Arena, more life regen to balance out the Oni. Starting to notice something here. Bravery for life, Art of the Gladiator for attack speed, accuracy, scaling, and some dex to support your high-level green gems. Also removes the armor penalty, movement speed from armor penalty. You get a 2-point jewel there. Also, this jewel is beautiful, and I love it. It cost me like 1 exalt. Come over here to the right side of the tree. You want to snag these sword nodes. You want to snag some LE damage. You want to snag some crit, a jewel socket, some life with flasks, and finally, Druidic Rite and Heart of Oak for more regen, more regen. So there's a lot of accuracy scaling. Druidic Rite, it's a beautiful node, and it increases how long your flasks are active, and it increases how many flasks you gain when you kill an enemy, which is very important on this character. Not being a Pathfinder really hits you in the face. You know, a lot of my characters are used to having flasks up all the time. This character, not so much. Really not so much. That's the skill tree, boys and girls. Real quick, I'm going to have a sip of water because my voice is dry from talking so fast, but here's the jewels. This is basically what you want. If you're trying to buy jewels for this character, go for something like this. If you can't afford this, because these jewels are expensive as F, you can get a 3-stat jewel. I tried to make sure that all my jewels had some life on it. Actually, all of them do have life on it. And then I went for attack speed, crit multi, melee damage, physical damage, whatever it may be. All of that is good stuff. Whatever you can do to juice up your Blade Flurry, that's what it is. Alright, so again, we'll take a closer look at the Ascendancies. Now that we've covered the whole character, you might be able to see how it all synergizes together. Flames Advance. Converts 100% of physical to fire, now making the best way to scale damage through physical, which is beautiful because it's pretty easy to get. Damage penetrates 10% fire resistance. Speaks for itself. Every 10 seconds you get a Convention of Elements proc, and you annihilate the whole screen. Easy game, easy life. Diablo 3, Convention of Elements. Death's Fury. Fire damage leached his life, which is beautiful. Now we don't need to get that or worry about it anywhere else on the tree. Not that we really need it. The regen, for the most part, keeps us alive in most situations. So does the Soul of Arakali. I'm going to screenshot that and show it right boop, now. Now, the increased strength helps scale our strength. Now, it looks low because I'm in my lab gear, but trust me, when I say it's over 600, you get a lot of life, a lot of damage from strength. You also get to cover enemies in ash for 10 seconds. You can see they take 20% increased fire damage when they're covered in ash, and it wrecks. Absolutely great. All these Chieftain nodes also have life regeneration, again, helping us sustain the Oni-Goroshi's burn effect. Forest Strength pretty much gives you free endurance charges when you're mapping. It's not really so useful for the boss or anything else. Alright, I'm going to be honest. With Immortal Call in a cast when damage taken setup, our endurance charges are getting consumed pretty rapidly. So that's not always up to take advantage of it, but you know, it is a factor to some extent, especially when you're mapping, clearing like big packs of mobs between bosses or whatever else. Sun's Light, it gives you the fire resistance you need to actually cap out pretty much immediately. It's beautiful. You don't need to worry about fire resistance pretty much at all, especially if you have the Xoph's Blood, you're good to go. Making it really easy to buy good gear, because look, I mean, if you only need a little bit of resistance on gear, it allows you to sacrifice resistance for other stats like fizz damage, strength, accuracy, life, anything else. It's wonderful. And then the other beautiful aspect of this node is that you get more life regen and physical damage from hits taken as fire. It helps you mitigate a little bit more. With the Barbarism node, we have +1 max fire res, so any fire damage we take is mitigated wonderfully. Okay? Keep in mind that the Wise Oak is also balanced, so you're taking reduced fire damage in the first place. So that's the character. You guys seen the Pantheons. I don't know what else I need to show. I killed all the bandits for 2 passive points. Alright, so that's the character I've been playing with. It's not a Queen of the Forest character for once, but I do have a Queen of the Forest character probably coming up soon. Stay tuned for that. This guide's over. I hope I didn't miss anything. You guys are beautiful out there in YouTube land. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. If you want to run this character, I wish you the best of luck. It's treated me wonderfully. It can do all the content in the game. It's more than I hoped it would be. It's hard to find a character these days that can actually do it all, and do it all very well. This character is that character. Uber Lab, check. Uber Head Siri, also check. Shaper farming in 4 minutes, check. All the Guardians, check. Elder Guardians, deathless, all of them, with an Abyssus on. Uber Elder even. The last boss in the whole game, the hardest boss in the whole game, easy. Just make sure you have the right switches on. All the auras, maybe that Watcher's Eye too. Alright, YouTubes. I'm done bragging about the character I swiftly created before the league started, but I'll catch you guys next time.